Hey, Tom here from the Run Testers, and welcome to the third of our monthly podcasts. In this episode, we are going to be talking about all the usual things we talk about, so the running kit that we've been testing, the latest running news, and there's going to be a few more running facts, because we know that you like the running facts. In this episode, we're going to be focusing a little bit more on autumn races. So if you're running a marathon or a half marathon in autumn, this podcast may be useful, because we're going to be talking about the training that we're doing and the kit that we're planning to use when we do our marathons. So you might get a little bit of insight into the kit that might work for you for your own races in autumn. We also have an interview with Tom Evans, who will be talking about the various kit that he uses, the training that he does, and how he's been preparing for the UTMB, which he's actually doing at the point of publishing this podcast. So we don't know how he's done yet. It's going to be interesting to find out what happens over there in Chamonix. So let's jump in and do the podcast. Okay, so we're back with the third Run Testers podcast, and this is going to be slightly different today because we're going to do a bit more of a focus on marathons. A lot of you listening to the podcast will probably be training for marathons at the moment, so we're going to talk a little bit about the kit we're going to be using, a bit about the training, and anything else we can think about that might be useful for your marathon training over the next few weeks. But today I am joined with Nick, who's on all of them so far, and we have a new face or sound on the podcast, and that's Jill. Now,
hello,
Jill. We haven't actually properly introduced you to the listeners yet. Do you want to just give us a little bit of info on who you are?
Yeah, I've just snuck up, haven't I? I've just started appearing randomly. I am a marathon lover, basically. I like long distance. I have the same coach as Nick, so we can geek out about training, which is fun. I've got far too many pairs of running shoes already, so it seemed to fit well that I would test shoes for you. And my day job is working for the BBC.
There you go. Plenty of info for listeners to work with now. So there you go, listeners. That's who Jill is. If any of you were confused when she popped up in videos. Well, let's start the podcast with the way that we normally do, talking about our training at the moment. Now, Jill, you just mentioned that you and Nick have the same coach, and I believe you're both training for. Well, Nick, you're doing 2 marathons, but you're both training for London. Is that right?
Sort of.
Right.
Yeah. So this is where. So Nick, you're training for Berlin, aren't you?
I am, yeah, which is a week before London, and then I'm going to run London. I mean, our coach Andy's. I don't think he's delighted I'm doing that, but he's signed up for that a while because I don't ever want to miss a London because it's local, isn't it?
Exactly. And so I'm training for Valencia, which is quite a long time after London, but I'm also running London, and basically persuaded our coach Andy that it was fine as well. And Nick is, unbeknown to him, pacing me at London, regardless of how you do in Berlin. So, I mean, do we want to drop the bombshell about what Andy's plans are for us now? Is that too much?
Telling it, Andy, you won't know this, Tom. Actually, you don't know this, either, but Andy doesn't really give your marathon target till quite near the race. So, as the Andy veteran, I get all the questions from all the people who haven't run a marathon before. Well, when is he going to tell me how fast I'm running? It's like, well, he won't, basically, I'm afraid, until it's quite near the time. But yeah, he'll give you the information at some point.
You've still not got it?
Oh, no, you're getting me through halfway at 1:30, and then we're winding it up from there, apparently.
He loves a wind-up.
So there we go.
That'd be fine.
Just so you know.
I could probably do that.
So don't overdo it in Berlin.
I'll ease off.
So,
no
Nick,
PBs, not allowed.
Nick, what's your aim for Berlin?
Well, I haven't got it exactly from Andy yet, but I personally would just like a PB. I'd probably be going out. I think I'm just going to go on pace and try and run under 3:30 per K at a reasonably comfortable level, hopefully, for quite a long time and see. That's what I was doing in London, and I had a bit of a weird thing in the last 10K there. So hoping I'll carry it all the way through and get like a 2:26, 2:27 if a bit of a speed up. But I'm also doing Valencia now, by the way. I've got my place for the waiting list, so that's my back.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. You might be doing too many marathons.
Well, I'm only doing Valencia's quite a long.
No such thing.
How about you, Jill? What sort of ballpark are you aiming for at London or Valencia?
So London, just anything under 3, I guess. It's kind of a sort of a long, hard training run. I think. Valencia, I'd like a PB. My current is 2:53.22. So, I mean, really, I'd like to upgrade that to something beginning with a 2:4. But that's, we like to stretch goals, right? So yeah, 2:49.59 would be my ideal. Well, not my ideal. I mean, faster than that would be my ideal. But yeah.
Well, that would
marathon
be...
I've done Valencia. I haven't done Berlin yet, to be fair. But yeah.
Have you not done Valencia yet, Jill?
I've done Valencia and Berlin before. I would say, I think Valencia is maybe a faster course just because it's wider and I don't know. Berlin obviously is super flat. However flat a marathon, you'll always find an incline somewhere, so that there is some bits where you feel like you're going uphill. I just think Berlin as a city is wonderful, but there's not that much on the route to lift you out if you're having any kind of struggles. Whereas Valencia, there are moments where you can kind of have something to lighten your mind. But if you're having a really good day at Berlin, it's a perfect place to like dial in and get it going. Yeah.
I just remember a nice time at a bar on the beach with Nick when we did it.
That was lovely. That was my first marathon with Andy Valencia, and it was a massive progression run. It was the best I've ever felt in a marathon. I have to say, he started really relaxed and just went through the gears. Lovely.
So are you two both? Sorry,
I think we should feel like we've left you out, Tom. How's your marathon training going?
Yeah,
tough. Well, I'm still on the Steph 12 one track club plan, and the mileage is really increasing quite a lot at the moment, and probably more than I'm ready for. So there's a lot of interval sessions, quite long interval sessions. Sorry,
there's a lot of complaining is what there is in the group every day.
I am complaining quite a bit about the training, but yeah, no, it's going well. It's quite difficult to me I've never followed a plan before, so I'm wanting a sub 3 in Chicago, but I've got absolutely no idea what pace I'm at. We've been training at RPE for 2 months, so I don't really know how fast I'm going. I've not really been gauging it, so. Yeah, I've got a few races coming up, 5K next week, 10K the week after, and then half marathon with you, Nick.
Yeah, I've convinced Tom to come out to Pleshy Half, the big one in Essex, which is also the Essex half marathon champs and my club champs. Yeah. So even though it's only 2 weeks before Berlin, I insisted that I was allowed to do it because of my club champs, but I don't think I'll be allowed to actually race it. And if I get into a race with a club colleague, I'm worried that Andy will basically ditch me forever.
Well, just stay away from me. I don't want you coming anywhere near me. Trying to
coming to you, fake pace. Terribly, terribly wrong.
Cool.
What's the hardest thing about the following a plan?
He's just never done it.
Is it the sessions itself, or the kind of the rigidity of a plan?
The bits I find difficult are, in fact, it's not necessarily following our plan; it's following this plan. It's quite strict in terms of what runs I've got to do each day, and I can always do the runs, but I have to sort of balance them around a bit. So sometimes I move them around a little bit, and that causes a problem because that means that they're not quite like the best run for the time. Because I might have done a long run on Sunday and have to play around with the run on Monday, so I end up being quite tired for that run. So yeah, I'm not just using a plan. I'm happy with the high mileage. It's just I like to do it around my own time as opposed to strictly following something. So that's the bit I'm struggling with. And the long runs I always struggle with just because they take up a lot of time.
I spoke to Tom about this, and I was saying how it's the first time he's really followed a strict plan, and sessions all the time, the mileage is adding up. So I was hoping maybe I'd get a little bit more respect because I've been doing that for like 5 years, but he just basically keeps me being a maniac. So
yeah, it goes one of two ways, doesn't it? Either people are like, "Oh my goodness, you're amazing that you do this. This is incredible," or they just go, "You're an idiot. Why are you doing this?"
Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah. No,
I think we're amazing.
Well, I think I'm quite looking forward to doing this plan, and then maybe because I've never done a plan before, because I can properly sort of work out my next plan that I do for another marathon, as opposed to just going in blind. Because I know the bits, the way that I like to train now, so I can probably focus on choosing a plan that works for me.
I think the really big bit for you will be the next few weeks when you beat your PBs all 3 distances, which is what I expect to happen quite comfortably. I think you'll be a bit more excited about the plan and the plans in general.
Well, we'll see. Don't get your hopes up. All right. Well, I think we talked about our training plans enough, and I know you're desperately waiting for the first running fact. So here we go. This is actually given to me by a friend of mine, Andrew Stevens, and he gave me this fact. And I've checked that this fact does exist. It's not just he was in the pub and he came up with his own fact. But apparently, runners used to drink champagne as an energy drink. and that's back in Victorian times, and because they thought alcohol was a performance enhancer.
One of the Olympic marathons was famous for it, wasn't it? And they took strychnine, rat poison, at the same time, I think.
Oh, there's
Jill, there's a level of knowledge I get from these facts, and I don't delve in too far to not these couple of sentences. That might be the case.
There's one Olympic marathon that reading the history of is like reading the script of like a Will Ferrell movie. And I'm amazed it hasn't been made. And there's only one person finished, and there was like so many random things happened in it. It's worth digging out. I can't remember. That's the early 1900s.
Is it not the one that is it like 1903 or something? I think, or not the one that finished at White City.
No,
where
it
was the reason that it became 26.2.
No, it wasn't. No, it was in America, and it's utterly like you read it, and it is like a cast of characters from like an ensemble comedy film. They're all doing ridiculous things, lots of cheating, like Roadrunner style. Like no, what's it called? Wacky Racers. Plus the fact that they weren't allowed to drink or something, and it was ridiculously hot, so they all like nearly died or something. Yeah, but it's funny.
Yeah, well, there's a second bit to this fact as well, and they apparently also took drugs, heroin and cocaine to enhance their performance. Lovely. I don't know if that's true. I imagine it probably didn't enhance their performance.
That is true. No. That was one of my former editor's favourite things, was about pretty much all drugs were prescribed by doctors early on as performance enhancers, including heroin and cocaine and everything.
And there we go. Inside knowledge on these facts. Actually, for once, has some sort of grounding.
Now you can just have a beer marathon and a cider marathon and a wine marathon, but not for performance enhancing.
No, different reasons.
Right, so another one of those shortly. So stay tuned for that. And then I suppose we need to bit of an update on Kieran. So Kieran's nearly done. He's nearly finished his Danube challenge. I think he's got, well, when we're at the point of talking now, he has got 6 days left, and he's done. He's done his full, done the whole length of the Danube. So yeah, expect next month an interview with him on the podcast to talk through it all. But I also imagine plenty of videos and things coming on. But if you want to find out what's happening in the final few days of the challenge, then head over to Man v Miles. And also he's raising money for a number of charities. So if you, I'll put the link in the caption for the video or the podcast episode. But he's doing raising money for, I'll list out the charities: Starfish, Great Hearts Foundation, Save the Children, UNICEF UK, Magic Breakfast, and the Farah Foundation. So get over there and support those charities and Kieran. I won't talk too much more about Kieran now because we'll be talking with him quite a lot when he gets back. So, okay, so let's talk running news. Now we've got, well, both of you know a lot more than I do about running news. So I won't have a clue about any of these things. But let's just give a bit of a taster, a bit of an overview to the listeners on what is happening in the world of running. Jill, we've had the European Athletics Champs. Anything interesting going on there?
Yep. There was quite a fun finish for the men's marathon. There's a guy called Richard Ringer from Germany, who all the commentators had said that the winner was going to be the Israeli Mauro Teferi, and then he absolutely smashed the final 200 metres and just came storming by, which is quite fun. So yeah, 2 European Athletics Champs, obviously loads of stories going on there, and also Commonwealth before that as well. Interest trainer-wise, mainly ASICs on the winning line there. There is UTMB going on at the moment as well.
Oh, yes, everyone knows about it. It seems to have gone... I remember maybe 5-6 years ago, UTMB was still a little bit of a... You know, the trail runners went out there and you saw a bit about it. But now it's like everyone's there this week. Just constant posts about it. It seems incredible.
Including Tom Evans, coming up on this very podcast.
Including Tom Evans, who is shortly coming up on this podcast, so stay tuned for that as well. Nice exclusive interview with him about his training and his kit, so that should be good.
I feel like in that Alan Partridge episode where he keeps saying Roger Moore's coming. And
so UTMB, as I said, I don't know too much about it. Are you keeping track of it all, Jill?
I am embarrassingly ill-informed about it tomorrow. I'm afraid at the moment. I'm afraid. I think does the actual main race kicks off tomorrow.
Friday.
Yeah, Friday. I saw Ben Parks and people picking up their kit and their bibs and stuff today. So and they were looking ready. So yeah, sounds like it.
Mike's out
I'll
there
be dot
right now.
tracking.
Support.
Yes, he is. Yeah. Seems to be enjoying himself. He's not running it.
No,
just watching. Just watching with a beer. But yeah, it's. I'd love to go out sometime, but I don't think I'd race and do any of the races. Either of you ever harboured a bit of excitement for taking part in UTMB?
No. I can't do. I mean, I've done.
You're saying that because Andy's listening.
No, I don't do heights really. Like I used to live in Nepal and did some treks in the Himalayas, and it was just scared. Like, it was really beautiful, but I was like not very happy because I was constantly getting vertigo, and I don't think running through the night in those conditions is a good idea. So probably not for me.
Jill, you're not interested?
Yeah, no, I was for quite a while. I started doing a bit of ultras and stuff. I'm awful at hills, so that's probably not a great idea for me. They have, just with my women's runner particular hat on, they have now allowed for pregnancy recovery deferrals, which they were really strict on not doing before. So that's good.
2 years as well, which is quite, I think.
Yes.
Because 1 year might not help that much.
Not so much. Yeah.
All right, well, time for another running fact before we move on to the next section. Running outside at the same pace as if you're on a treadmill burns more calories due to air resistance. Thoughts on that?
Well, the big thing.
It sounds logical.
Is people always say you should put them at like 0.5 or 1 or 1.5 to simulate air resistance, but I find that puts quite a lot of strain in your body in a weird way because you're running on a constant incline. So it's
Also, someone pointed out to me the other day that actually most treadmills are never going to be completely flat anyway. They will always have a slight incline because of the way they're set up. So it's rare to have. So actually, you have to have special little shoes to put your treadmill on if you want it to be pancake flat. There you go. I'm full of dull facts.
I wasn't expecting that insight into treadmills build. But it sounds plausible to me, but just very, very minimal to the point where it's just almost irrelevant. Can't imagine many people really picking up a lot of extra speed on a treadmill because they've not got a little bit of air. I don't trust treadmills if I run good sessions on them. Basically, I don't let myself count them until I do them on the road. I've got a bit of a thing about it where it's just. I'm with you on that one. I don't trust treadmill times.
See, I think mentally treadmill is hard, so it's good mental training.
It is, well, unless you put Seinfeld on or something, then it's a bit easier.
Yeah. Well, the mental stuff's different, isn't it? Because you might actually find it. You might really like that mental side of it. You might not like being outside and doing it. So it's sort of your preference. But I think that the way that you actually run on a treadmill is probably certain elements of it that make it easier on various parts of the body. I don't know. That's not a fact. Also, that's not a fact.
It's hard for niggles, I think, because if you have got a small thing, you're landing the same way every single time. I think you can exacerbate. So I really like using them, especially in the winter. And then when it's night, I don't like running outside in the dark, so I find it easier on a treadmill. But I can't do it too much because I especially don't trust the results.
Yeah. All right. Well, more of those in a bit. Right. That's it for the intro news section. Let's move on to some kit. Okay, guys, into the meat of the podcast, different gear, where we talk about kit that we've tested and kit that we're about to test. So let's dive straight in. And I know nothing about this piece of kit, the Garmin Enduro 2. Nick, you've been testing this, haven't you?
Big boy. Yeah. Yeah. It's basically a Phoenix 7X Plus or Phoenix 7X Ultra. It's got all the same features as the Phoenix and the Epics. With an even bigger battery, basically, and then some yellow accents around the side to make it look a bit different to the Phoenix. It's a nice watch, lovely watch. I mean, I like all the same things I like about it. I like all the same things about it as I liked about the Phoenix 7X. You know, big battery, great features. Still prefer the screen on the Epics myself, but obviously this is going to last. So I think it's going to last probably 2.5, 3 weeks, even with fairly high mileage weeks, and that's pretty good. Obviously, if you're a triathlete, you get through it a lot quicker because once you start cycling, you start rinsing the battery a bit more. But yeah, I think it's another good watch from Garmin. I've had some weird GPS stuff with it, but I'm not sure that's indicative of any underlying problems. I think it's just had a couple of random runs where it's had the right GPS track, but slightly offset, which always looks a bit crazy on Strava. So yeah, I mean, there's really nothing new about it. That's the thing. It's an interesting launch from Garmin where there's basically we made the last Enduro didn't have maps and music, and everyone complained. And so they put maps and music on it and gave it all the same features as the Phoenix and made it a little bit more expensive. So it just acts as an extension of that line now, which will be very welcome to people who are running for extremely long times because, in GPS only mode, it can last 150 hours in the sun, that kind of thing. So that's great. But if you're someone who runs for marathons and doesn't run longer than 3 hours, I don't use that very much.
So why would you? Interesting, because I never tested the previous Enduro, and my friend asked me what's the difference between the Enduro and the Enduro 2. You've just answered that, but I didn't know. Seems like a strange difference in the functionalities that those two watches have got. And how much is the Enduro 2? It's quite expensive.
It's $930 or $40, and then over $1,000. It's too expensive. Although in the first watch was very expensive and didn't have maps and music, so it was an easy thing to complain about. It lasted very well, battery life, but the Fenix was cheaper and had maps and music and still lasted pretty well. And so it's basically become Garmin's top dog in their range, the new one, by giving it all the features, but and bigger battery. But it's now even by Fenix standards, very, very expensive. So it's it's an acquired taste. I mean, you can get an Epix for less, and then you're getting the screen. So it's a trade-off of screen versus battery life. But if price, it was the price the same as the Fenix 7X, it's a superior watch. It's the same watch with more battery. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Well, look forward to. Have you done a review of that? You're still doing it?
Done a first look. I've got to kill it. That's the problem for the review. So I've got to get through the battery at least twice. So that's taking me ages, and I'm on a bit of a down week at the moment. So just looking at it, just not moving, and I go, I need to run. I need to murder this watch. So it's proving tricky.
Nice. Okay. Well, we'll look forward to that one eventually. Okay, and then another big launch. It was sort of this floating around for ages, the news of this shoe, and that's the Nike Pegasus Turbo Next Nature, which has been, I think I've seen sort of leaked pictures of it on Instagram for the past few months, but nobody really knew that much about it. And it's out now. It's released, and we've got the shoe. And I think people were excited because it was a return of the Turbo range, which for many people is one of their favourite shoes that's ever existed. I've done a run in it. You've done a run in it. Nick, what is you haven't got this, have you, Jill?
No, but I loved the Turbo, so I'm hopeful. Please tell me it's as good as the Turbo.
It's not as good as the Turbo.
You might want to close your ears now.
Well,
it uses recycled ZoomX foam, and I'm a bit unclear as to where that recycled foam comes from. I've heard it was on the floor of the factories and stuff like that, and they sort of pull it together.
Yeah,
it seems they can't get enough ZoomX foam to do that. I don't think, for the number of shoes that probably can produce thing. But Nick, what did you think to it?
It's interesting. On paper, it looks amazing. The Pegasus Turbo's back, and now it's recycled. Is brilliant news all round. Yeah. The ride is much firmer, and it's less impressive than normal ZoomX foam. Obviously, the original Peg Turbo was a combination of foams. It was ZoomX with React foam on the bottom to increase the durability, but you felt ZoomX underfoot, and that's what made it feel so nice. And it was lighter. So this new shoe's not heavy, it's not bad. It pairs this recycled ZoomX with the SR02 carrier foam that basically has become the blight of all Nike shoe fans. And there you go. Every time there's a really exciting shoe comes out, it goes, oh, it's also got this foam in it. Oh, okay, that's a shame. And it's got a okay ride. Because you and Mike had used it, Tom, and rather, just not being very positive, I went in with quite low expectations. I thought it was a bit bouncier than I expected. And I'm hoping that you can beat a bit of life into that recycled ZoomX over time. I'd say my main concern is the PEBA-based ZoomX foam is not, it's not hard, I don't think, to recycle PEBA in lots of different ways. I don't necessarily know if this is anything that necessary from Nike to recycle the scraps from their factories and make it they could just recycle it in another way. And I don't know, there is a lot of stuff flying around them using the ZoomX name to try and sell shoes, but they've got a different feel. And I don't know, it all seems like there's a lot of this recycled ZoomX going around and making shoes that don't feel like what people expect. So it's completely, just don't call it the Pegasus Turbo Nature necessarily, because it's not really going to be what people are expecting going in. I think that's part of the problem they're going to have here. But maybe we'll get
yeah.
Do you think?
Sorry,
I was going to say. Do you think it bears anything kind of resemblance of the Pegasus or the Pegasus Turbo, or is it just that they brought that name out because everyone loved it, and so they've kind of shoved it in with that group?
I think there's very, very little in common with the original Pegasus Turbo. It doesn't feel like it to me, and I kind of feel that if you're gonna release a new version of one of the world's favorite ever shoes that they've been desperate to get for so long, changing the makeup of that shoe and almost redesigning that shoe is a very strange thing to do, because it almost suggests that it's a marketing thing over the actual design of the shoe. I think if they released it as a different shoe, it might be less disappointing for some people than calling it the Turbo, because imagine a lot of people might buy it and then they'll get it and they go, this doesn't feel anything like the Turbo, which isn't a bad thing if it's not the Turbo, but you can't sort of use the name and come back with it, because it was such a fantastic shoe.
I think they've got there's 3 shoes that have come out this year. Like, they've got ZoomX all over them, written all over them. Everything they use was using ZoomX. So you've had the Zoomfly 5, which was a ZoomX core, recycled ZoomX core, surrounded by a not very good EVA foam, and it was a very heavy shoe. I haven't really enjoyed using at all. And then the ZoomX Zagama, the trail shoe, which I think uses fresh ZoomX. It's not the recycled stuff, but again, heavily surrounded by another foam, which means it loses that kind of feeling. And then the Pegasus Turbo ZoomX. Zoom Nature, which again is recycled stuff, and there's more of it, and it's clearly a ZoomX midsole, but it's recycled stuff. I know there's a lot. They finally brought ZoomX to another shoe in the Invincible, and everyone loved it, and I thought that would have set the tone. I mean, if they really are short of ZoomX, why do they release the biggest cushion shoe in the world using it, the Easy Shoe? So, I don't know. I'm hoping the Peg Turbo Nature will liven up a bit after a few runs, and there's a good chance it will, because maybe it just needs a bit more breaking in, this recycled stuff, but it all seems a slightly odd strategy with shoes that has resulted in people being quite down on Nike releases this year, when normally this foam would be a very exciting thing for everyone to use.
Yeah. Well, I just think that if you have the recycled element of it is obviously a nice feature, and at some point we may all be using recycled shoes in the future, but don't call it the same thing as another shoe that already exists that is different, because it takes away from the fact that you've got a recycled shoe. Because if they just, like, Allbirds released their Tree Flyer, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that's a very firm shoe, and we talked about that, and you can't really use it for longer distance stuff because it's just really firm and not really designed for that. This is better than that. So, it's got a value in it. It's got quite a balance between the sustainability and the performance, but it's not the Turbo. Which is my problem, basically. I said in the review I want to love it, but it's just not there for me yet.
We'll see.
Okay, so
it'll be very positive. It breaks in at like 20 miles.
yeah. Well, you'll get to that with your enduro training, won't you? You're going to be the best place for the mileage.
Flogging myself.
Okay, let's dip into another fact.
Dip in.
And I don't, to be honest, this one, and I should have said this earlier, that none of these are verified in any way whatsoever, so they might be utter nonsense. Apparently, 20% of Earth's inhabitants don't have a marathon gene. Apparently, researchers at Loughborough University said this, and they can train all they want, but it won't help them win. I don't know what that means, winning. That's.
I feel like we're one step away from you saying, according to boffins.
I just have one question, really, is how do I get the gene testing?
Yeah.
That would be good, wouldn't it? Yeah.
You'll stop.
Yeah, because otherwise, I mean, what's the point, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, I can't see that actually being true, but Loughborough University has got their name against it, although I don't know if that's verified either. So there we go. Another useful fact for you for running.
They're only up the road. I'll go and ask them. It's fine.
Yes, please. Yes, if you could. Just go to reception.
No problem.
Right. Okay. Let's get into the big question of the day. I mentioned at the start of this that we're focusing a little bit more on marathons in this episode. So let's talk marathon shoes. What are we? And I know Nick's been struggling with this. It's actually been stressing him out quite a lot, to the point where he's annoying me about it now. Every day he's a bit worried about what to go for. So let's start with Jill. So it's a bit, gives you a bit more time to think, Nick. What shoe are you going for in your autumn marathons?
Well, that is a good question. I have a long time to procrastinate about this and London to test it out in. So up until recently, I think I would have gone for the New Balance Fuel Cell RC Elite. It is, now, it's not such a clear-cut one, but I ran in the Adidas Pro 2 and the Alpha Fly for a couple of races last year and ended up with some foot discomfort. And I love the Pro 2 for shorter races, but then I went back to the Fuel Cell because it's just so comfortable. And when I got a brand box fresh pair, I felt like Tigger. So although they're not the lightest, I just felt like I needed that fail safe. But that was because the Next Percent was still quite expensive at that point. Now we've had the Saucony Pro 3, Endorphin Pro 3, and obviously the Nike Next Percent Vaporfly are cheaper. So that has thrown a whole load of problems into the mix.
I thought your answer was going to be simple. That's why I went to you first.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. No, I know. Problem is, so the Vaporfly Next Percent, it just feels like if all else fails, that one is always going to be a gimme on the day. It's always going to work. Mm-hmm. You're not going to get discomfort like you might do in some of the other ones other than the Saucony. The Saucony is probably the closest to that, I guess, these days, which I was surprised about when we tested it. Yeah, but I think if I was ever dithering, I think I'd still probably just about, if they're still of a good price, then the Nike Next Percent Vaporfly 2 would probably what I'd just be like, I'm just going to go back to that.
This is the problem. Everyone's got such a good record with Nike now. Everyone just goes, just really comes to it. Gut check.
One caveat, if I could get hold of a pair of 4% in my size, I would absolutely go for those. I still think they're the best. Sorry.
Amazing. Never tried those.
I think that's an absence that makes the heart grow fonder, because I've still got some knocking around. I did use them thinking, remember how great these are, and they aren't as good as I remember.
Okay, fair enough. So sorry, I haven't given you a very clear answer. Nick, go.
Same exact problems. I mean, I'm at the point where the problem is when you review shoes and you talk about a shoe and you say how good it is and you say this is the best one, and there are some shoes like that, and then it comes to your marathon, you go, well, yeah, I do think it's the best one, but I don't necessarily want to use it because I've got a record with something. I was heading into marathon season intending to use one of the Endorphin Pro 3 and the Alphafly 2. I think Endorphin Pro 3 was my top pick. I think it just works really well for me. It's really lightweight. It's a bit more cushion than the Vaporfly, and I think I was going to basically use that. And then on my birthday on eBay, a pair of Alphafly 1s popped up in the blue colour I've always wanted but never got. And they were quite cheap, and they're brand new, and I bought them. They're with the eBay authenticators now to make sure I'm not getting scammed. And I might just use those because even though I don't think, all chips are down, I'm not sure they're actually as good as the new breed of shoes, the Alphafly ones. But I ran my 229 in them. I had a good run in London in them before I had some weird stuff unrelated to shoes that stopped me. I hit a kind of weird wall towards the end. So I think even though I wouldn't advise people to do this, I might just use the Alphafly 1 again because they're my favourite colour. And because I've got Valencia now, I've got two shots. I think it's going to be Alphafly 1 for one and the Endorphin Pro 3 for the other, probably.
Good long answer.
But that will all change by the time this podcast released. So
we're not going to discuss it again next month.
I've also done a 20 and a 24 miler in the Alphafly 2, both of which went really well. And the second one, I was absolutely out. I was like not feeling great, and it just dragged me through at some quite good pace towards the end. I thought, this is great, brilliant shoe. Should use this, but I'm not gonna.
So I've got a question.
So much in the mind.
Yeah, I actually think if the Saucony Endorphin if the Endorphin Pro 3 or the Alpha 2 came in that shade of blue, probably be using them. But I think at this stage, you just got to go and make you feel good. So
obsessed with light blue. Quick question for you then on the Alphafly 2, because this goes on to my choice of shoe. Is the Alphafly 2, does it have the arch fit issue?
It's not
of the Alphafly 1.
It is still a bit like that. It's a bit basically they made the Alphafly 2 more accessible. So the reason why it's I think it is an improvement overall is that it's wider, it's more accessible, it's got a higher drop, and I think it will work for more people. But because I already like the original and the new one's a bit heavier and doesn't come in blue, I'm just going to go back to the original, I think. But yeah, the arch, it's still got a high arch. It's part of the design of the shoe almost, I think, to force you into a slightly better position when you're tired. But it's not as noticeable, certainly in the new version. And it's also just way too expensive. I basically think the Alpha 2, I think as much as I think it's an amazing shoe and maybe the fastest in the straight line marathon you'll ever come across, I would probably say no one should buy it because it's 280 quid and there are shoes that are basically as good, if not better for you for well under half that. You can get I got the Alphafly off eBay for 100 quid. Don't go on eBay all the time, it's a bit risky, but you can get like the Vaporfly for like 120, 130, and yeah, I think it's very hard to sell the new Alphafly in that market condition.
Okay.
How about you, Tom?
Good.
Easy answer?
Saucony Endorphin Pro 3.
Done. Next section.
unless I get hold of the Alphafly 2 and I like it. I went out for a run, an interval session yesterday, and I picked up my Alphaflies and put them on, and I felt the pressing against my arch, which I remember from Bilbao was a bit of a scary moment when I did about 5k, and it's the first time I'd worn those Alphaflies.
So it's a testament to the Alphafly that they were hurting you and they fell apart during the run and you still PB'd quite comfortably.
Yeah, but I don't want to risk that again. So I think I'm just going to go Saucony Endorphin Pro 3s because I'm absolutely loving them for any run that I'm using them for at the moment.
Yeah, they're fantastic. I've said it before in a review. What I like about them is that Saucony's not overcomplicated things. They haven't got like a shorter distance racing shoe and a longer distance racing shoe, and they're not weirdly heavy or not, because they're just, this is the best racing shoe. It's perfect for all distances. Go and use it, and it does work really well.
Okay, so we'll do this as a quick one then, because we probably don't need so much discussion around it. But what watch are you going to wear for your marathon, Jill?
I only have one watch, I'm afraid, which is the Garmin Vivo Active 3. It's not the best watch. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but it's the only one I have.
Not the best watch, but a very easy answer.
Yeah.
I like that. Nick's probably going to talk about 14 watches now. Nick, it's going to be after the Enduro because you still tested it.
Well, if I can't take the Enduro off, I'll be lugging it around Berlin. But no, the Epix 2 is my watch. And if I take music, I might put on another watch just for the music, because unlike Jill, I have way too many watches and I feel like a real, like, well, I can't use the word on the podcast. I don't think we've got an implicit rating, have we?
Well, I'm glad Mike's not on this one because he would have been going on for ages. I think he's testing about 12 watches at the moment.
Always, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going for 955. I really like the 955 at the moment.
Yeah, unless Garmin calls it back before then.
I'm hoping not.
Very
I'm hoping
stressful
not.
time.
I might actually put some music on it this time. And then just a quick overview, a couple of things we've covered on the channel recently. Hoka Mach 5, we've done our review of that shoe. Jill, you've not tested Hoka Mach 5, have you? No. We'll do this one. Quick overview, Nick. What do we think of Hoka Mach 5?
Yeah, brilliant shoe. Probably the best, I think, non-plated, like speedy training and general training shoe at the moment, I'd say. Probably be the marathon shoe I'd use if when carbon plates get banned.
Yes, that's what I was going to ask you. Perfect.
So you, Tom, you like it as well, don't you?
I think it's fun. Yeah, it's one of the best all-rounder shoes I've ever tried. I love running in it. It's fantastic. And then, what's this Puma shoe on here?
Puma XX. Awful shoe.
I was looking at it thinking that you just like put some X's in because you didn't know the rest of the name. You were going to fill it in later.
No.
Puma XX.
Yeah, it's a special design shoe for women, supposedly using last designed specifically for women's feet with narrower heel, more support specifically in the areas that women need it. Unfortunately, I really, really wanted to like this because of the ethos behind it and that whole thing about, lots of sports testing has been done on men historically, and, having something that's specifically for women is great. However, I don't know if it's a necessary thing, and, let's not be wasting our time if it's not necessary. But also, it's just a really bad shoe, which is really annoying. Like I've heard, you guys rave on the channel about the Puma, the Nitro foam, and there is literally no return in this shoe as far as I can tell. There are a few shoes which I think put me off running. I like to run. This shoe puts me off running, which sounds. I'm so disappointed at having to say that. It's got this kind of weird thing where it's supposed to be it's called a firm density rim that gives proper alignment. So it's supposed to guide your feet. But actually what it is a big chunky piece of plastic that goes around the back of your heel that's sort of lightly attached, but probably doesn't actually do that much. It's just enough to be heavy and slightly annoying and looks a bit cyborgy. It's got an 8mm drop, so it's sort of fairly, it's meant to rock you forward, but it doesn't really. Weight-wise, 247 grams, so it's not that light. And, other people are doing women-specific shoes. There's Altra have been doing it for years, and their shoes are a lot lighter if you want to go down that route. Or you've got, the Ultra Boost 22, which wasn't light, but people loved. So I just feel like, you could have done a lot better. You've got some good shoes. Why have you not done that, but in a women's fit?
Yeah, it does sound like the only bad shoe in the Nitro range is the women's shoe.
I wasn't expecting
this. Sorry, it's really bad. I was so excited.
Oh, there you go then.
Well, we've got to get you in the other ones to see if maybe just Nitro, but yeah.
Maybe. It might have been slightly also, affected by the fact that I got that and the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3 on the same day. You lift the Endorphin Pro 3 out of the box and you can, you barely feel it. It's so light. And you lift the Puma XX out, and it is like a brick in comparison. So there may be some of that, but I've tried various runs. I've tried runs with people to take my mind off it, and all I can think of is this shoe is really uncomfortable. So, yeah.
Enough.
Oh, well,
sorry.
Damning.
Less said about that, the better then.
I'm not that grumpy about all shoes, I promise.
And then Nick, Triumph 20. Give me a few lines. What do we think to it?
Really good cushion shoe in this kind of, the big premium cushioned category. Brand's most expensive shoes often. It's right up there, I think, with the Glycerin 20 and the Invincible as my favourite cushion shoes. And although I'm not a huge user of them, I think this is. I was like a Triumph user when I first started running. They ran my first races in them, and I think they'd serve new runners really well for everything. But yeah, you love them as well, don't you, Tom?
I think they're fantastic. Yeah, just about to put up the full review, so that should be up by the time people listen to this podcast.
I've gone to it. But really like them. Yeah.
Oh, great.
Waxing lyrical. Oh, you've got these as well. Oh, yeah.
Really good. Just great, long distance, easy running shoes. Do exactly what they need to do.
Fantastic. Okay, I think that'll do for gear this month. So, Tom Evans, welcome to the Run Testers podcast. You're our first guest on the podcast. Thanks very much for joining us.
I'm super excited. Thank you. Thanks very much for having me. An honour to be the first guest.
Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Well, you're a man that I think all the listeners will know of very well. You've got many achievements under your belt. You've got the UTMB, CCC, the Trail Running World Championships, Western States 100, the Tarawera Ultra, is it? I don't know too much about that one.
Good pronunciation, yeah.
Coastal Challenge Costa Rica. You've also an ambassador for loads of brands, including a very exciting new partnership with SunGod that's just happened. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about kit later on and SunGod. But first, let's jump in and start to talk about your plans at the moment and where you're at with your running career. So I suppose probably the biggest thing that you've been in the media for in recent months is your injury that happened a while ago. We'll delve into that in a little bit, but for now, because at the time that people will be listening to this, let's talk UTMB, because you will, by the time people listen to this, have done the UTMB.
That's a scary thought.
Well, yeah, I only just realised I was going to ask some questions about how you're preparing, but we can delve into that now. But you've actually done the UTMB CCC before. What made you decide to do the full UTMB?
Good question. I've been fortunate enough to do CCC, which is the 100K distance twice now in 2017, 2018. And I kind of feel like where I am in my career, I'm more excited about the longer races. Sort of for me, the 100-mile distance, it's still intimidating and there is more scope for things to go wrong. But for me, it makes it more of an adventure. I love 100K. It's going to sound bad, you can kind of get away with. You've obviously got to do a lot of training, but it's, for me, 10 hours, which is a long time, but I've done training runs in the last block that have been the same time. Yes, they've not been as long, but it's relative. It's all still time on feet. And whereas UTMB is going to take 20 hours. So it's super exciting. And I think for me, UTMB is a race that even before I started running, it's something I'd heard of and I knew about. And I think it is the equivalent of the Super Bowl of trail running, which I think is getting to line up against the best ultra trail runners in the world is truly exciting.
And are you feeling prepared?
I think so. I should have been more confident. Yes, very prepared. I think there's no such thing as a perfect build-up. It doesn't exist. Could I have run more miles and done more climbing? Yes. But at what cost would that have come? Am I, touch wood, 100% injury and niggle free? Yes. Am I in a good place mentally? Yes. am I in a good place physically? Yes, my Garmin says that I am, so I'll listen to that. And yeah, I feel good, and I'm excited. I'm not burnt out. I've gone into races where I've done too much training, and I'm sort of just looking forward to getting it over, so it's over. Whereas with this, I'm genuinely super excited about racing, and yeah, just really, really looking forward to it.
Brilliant. And is there a part of the actual course that you've been focusing on mentally? Is there something about it that you're either worried about or excited about?
I think a good question again. I think for me, there are 3 different phases of UTMB. So the first 3 to 4 hours. So you start at 6 p.m. The first phase before it gets dark is just carnage. There's people running way too fast, and it's just really stressful. You can't get in your stride. There's too many people. You're probably outside of your comfort zone because you want to be with the front group, and it's all, you sort of see it in track racing when the group all comes together, and that's when people then fall over and things start to go wrong. So yeah, I think there's that phase, which is the first phase, which I'm physically will be the easiest because you'll be the least tired, but mentally will be tough in its own way. And then, yeah, I'm then just super excited about it getting dark and putting my head torch on and getting through the night. I've spent countless nights out, whether sort of running or in the military. So I am comfortable in the night, and it's sort of, yeah, it's a real adventure. And yes, the most beautiful parts of the course you go through when it's dark, so you don't see. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to getting into my rhythm there. And mentally, I know I will really, really struggle at sort of probably between like 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. That's just when you're most tired, and it's the coldest and the darkest, but you know that it's going to get better. So for me, yeah, I guess I've sort of been focusing on that and what I'm going to say to myself when I get there, and sort of visualizing getting through that part. And yeah, and then the sun then comes up, hopefully, or at least it gets light, whether there's any sun, who knows. And then sort of from there, it's, yeah, your sort of magnetic field just being drawn to Chamonix. So yeah, I think, yeah, it's super exciting. And yeah, I think yes, it's not going to be easy. And I know it's going to be tough physically and mentally. And I think once you've genuinely accepted that it's not going to be easy, there'll be times where you don't want to be there, and your mind will play tricks on you. Once you've accepted that, great, because when it then happens, which it will, you're then prepared for it.
Yeah, brilliant. I'm very much looking forward to cross-checking this interview after you've done it to see what points you did find tricky. Let's chat about injury. This is something that probably most of the people that are listening to this podcast have probably dealt with at some point, but probably not at your level. It was such a debilitating thing for you when it happened, and over the past few months, obviously in the run up to UTMB, you're back. You've sort of dealt with that. What was it like going through that, getting injured at what is essentially the peak of your training?
Yeah, it was super tough. Both mentally and physically, obviously, really tough. So yeah, I had surgery. It's now the 17th of August now. I had my surgery on the 12th of August last year, so just over a year ago now. And yeah, I was on crutches for 2 months, and in pain for about the same amount of time. And yeah, lots of hard work, and there'll be points where you couldn't see any progress, but then you would let a week happen, and then you'd look back at what you did and you're like, oh, well, I can do so much more. So there is progress. And I wrote everything down that I did. And at points, it was really demotivating because you were doing exactly the same as you were doing 3, 4, 5 days ago. But you fast forward a month and you look back and you're like, oh, wow, I can't believe I'm doing what I'm doing now, because a month ago, back then, it seemed like that was so far away and so out of reach. And then mentally, I just had so much time. Like, I like training. I love training. and I train a lot. I probably average 25 hours a week of training, and doing my rehab, I was probably averaging 5-6 hours a week maximum in the early stages. So you had all of this time that you didn't, and I sort of saw it as, this is, at the beginning I saw it as, this is time where I'm not training and I'm not running. And then from speaking with my sports psychologist, it was okay, yes, it is, but don't look at it like that. See it as, instead of this is time that you should be training, see it as, this is time that you have got that you would never normally have. So use it, go do something with it, whether it's within sport or outside of sport. And yeah, and so for me, that was really liberating, and just that tiny sort of change of mindset that actually I sort of felt blessed that I had so much free time that I could go and do so much. And yes, it was tough. And then, yeah, sort of you then just take small steps and follow the advice and listen to your body, and yeah, do all the little things. And yeah, the sort of the big things then take care of themselves. And yeah, I was back running pain-free and 100% body weight, middle of December. So yeah, it was actually a pretty quick turnaround. And I think sort of for me, it was obviously, yeah, yes, a lot of people will think, oh, you're incredibly fortunate to be a professional athlete. You've got the support around you, but just because you're a professional athlete, it doesn't mean that the support sort of just forms around you and you've got this bubble. I've spent, years building this support bubble. I dread to think how many different physios and sports masseurs I've seen until it's taken me to find the right ones. And you then find the right ones, and you're like, and they might be the best in the world, but if they're not the best in the world for you, then that's not right. So yeah, I was incredibly fortunate. And then I went out to Austria to Red Bull, so for 3 weeks, my return to running, and I've been there fairly recently as well. And yeah, it's just working with people who genuinely want the best for you and have got no angle. They just want you back. So yeah, it was nice to sort of pass off some responsibility, and some accountability, which I think just mentally let me sort of relax and cool, just keep ticking the boxes, just get it done, just keep going, and you'll get there at the end. And here I am now 12 months ahead, talking about 12 months ago I couldn't walk. It's pretty crazy,
matey. And how does that, I mean, you've been a quite high level athlete from quite a young age. Going through an injury like that, how has it affected your mindset on racing and training and just life even?
I think it's just being smarter, and not being, if something hurts, it's not going to get better on its own. And I think there's a lot of people who will feel something and think, oh, is this something, or is it something else? Oh, I'm not sure. Take a day off, just rest. Like if the quicker something comes on, the quicker it can leave. But if you try and sort of push through it and poke at it and spend hours and hours and hours foam rolling it and prodding it, it's just not going to get any better. Sometimes you've just got to say, and it's that, to be able to relax and be like, right, I'm not going to run for 3 days. Doesn't matter. You're not going to lose. Yes, you might feel a bit sluggish when you get back running, but you're not going to lose any fitness in 3 days. You're barely going to lose any fitness in, and this is speaking for, yes, you might lose 1 or 2%, which if you are racing in the Olympic 1500 meter finals, yes, 1, 2, 3% is a lot. But for an ultra runner or for a social runner, 1% is nothing. Well done. You're going to run 12 seconds slower at park run this week because you missed 3 days of running. Well, it doesn't matter. And then you're injury free. And running, there are so many people who will say, oh yeah, this is a bit niggly, or oh, this is a bit sore. And I touch wood, I haven't had anything like that. Like if I did a sort of a body check now, I genuinely feel 100%. And that's there was such a long time where I had pain and I just thought, oh no, well, I'll get physio on it and I'll ice it and I'll do this on it or whatever. But yeah, it just doesn't. Sometimes you've just got to embrace it and say like, right, I'm injured. Fine. Yeah. Once you've said that and once that's done, it's then easy. Whereas just trying to convince yourself that you're not, you then just sort of prolong the whole experience, which is pretty miserable.
So would you say that at the point that you've had it, it's actually probably a positive thing in that if you've been given opportunity to learn about how to deal with injury and things, but also you've had almost like a second chance to go back and you can carry on doing it at a high level?
100%. Like I don't see it as failure or anything. I just see it as just the most incredible lesson that I can now learn and have learned and hopefully can try and show people that actually you don't have to do everything in this of these sort of run every day streaks that people do for a year. It's like, well, it's just not, if you're genuinely a performance athlete, it's just not going to help. And that, resting is a sacrificial. It's the most important part of training, and whether that's actually taking a full rest day, or sometimes if I'm in a high volume block, we might say, okay, well, we're not actually going to take a rest day, but we're going to do a run on Thursday morning before breakfast, and then we're not going to run until Friday afternoon, Friday evening. So you've had 36 hours of recovery. So you've given yourself a recovery day without taking a day off. And it's just, again, if you want to run every day, that's great, but maybe you need to manipulate things like that to give your body that extra bit of recovery. And yes, I know this is a sort of a kit podcast, but sleep is just the kit bits of recovery boots and massage guns and things that stuff's the tip of the iceberg. And actually nail your sleep. Don't worry about the marginal gains, the 1%ers, the 2%ers. Worry about the 20, 30%ers, which is sorting your sleep out. That was huge.
Brilliant. Well, that perfectly leads on to my next question, which is about kit. So we obviously, the Run Testers, we test out so much kit for running and trail running as well. How important, as you sort of mentioned it there, let's ignore the fact that sleep and things are obviously more important, but actually getting your kit right, how important is it for you when you're training and racing?
Super important. I see there are two different factors when you're racing. There are the controllable factors and then there are the uncontrollable factors. And with the controllable factors, which is your kit, I can choose what I'm going to wear. So then you take 100% responsibility for your kit, for things being the right size or being the right material and fitting. And and that might take time. You might have to test lots of different bits of kit, but you're able to take 100% responsibility for that. I think it's super important. And what works for one person may not work for another person. It does take time, but there's a lot of info out there. And I think just the key thing is just try until you find something that you like, and something that works for you. And then use that rather than thinking, oh, well, this person uses this, so I'm going to use it because it's great. Well, no, listen to what I'm saying, take the advice, but go try it. And I would I'm a genuine bloke that I'm not going to say, oh yeah, use this, it's great, and have a sort of backhand sort of wad of cash given to me. That just doesn't, one, I don't think it happens. Two, if it did happen, I would never do it, because the stuff that I say that I use and I genuinely use, and I'm a performance driven athlete and I use it for the performance. And yes, I've got some great kit sponsors and everything, which is amazing. But if I wasn't sponsored by them, I'd be buying their products anyway.
Cool. Well, let's. I've got a couple of questions for you on the exact kit you use, but let's talk SunGuard. You're obviously running in a lot of places that it's sunny. You need to have sunglasses. Why SunGuard? What are you using those for?
Yeah, I think I've sort of been around the houses on sort of all of different glasses, and I think for me, the two biggest important things for sunglasses in a performance way is one, how they fit and how comfortable they are, and two, the lenses. So with SunGod, if we start with the fit ends, so I always say the Ultras, for example, which is what I'm wearing. For me, the fit is perfect, super lightweight frame, sits really nicely on my face. You almost don't know that you're wearing them. And then, which is exactly how it should feel. It wants to be an extension of your body. And then the lenses, just the lens quality. When I am tired and I'm going down a descent after running for 8, 9, 20 hours, you want to be able to see properly. And for me, if you can get any help by doing that, that is huge. And for me, with the SunGod lenses, it is like the sort of, the clarity that you get from them is genuinely second to none. And I've run a lot of different glasses, and it's just, for me, it's just an absolute game changer that, yes, are they going to help me run a quicker 5K on the road? Maybe, maybe not. But for me, as an ultra distance runner, just an absolute game changer that I have so much more confidence. I'm then stressing less because I can see better. And then, you end up being able to run way more relaxed, which is, going to be way better for you. For me, it's just an absolute game changer.
It's so if I do a park run in a pair of sunglasses that just don't feel quite right on the eyes, like the lighting isn't quite right, I can find it so annoying just for that short distance. So for you doing UTMB, it's got to be perfect, hasn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So no, I am incredibly fortunate, and it's been a really cool journey so far with the team. And sort of watch this space for some very cool stuff coming in the pipeline soon.
Brilliant. And shoes, what have you decided to use for the race? Do you know?
Top secret.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
I do know. I do know. So I'm an Adidas Terrex athlete, and I was in the early designing stages of the Speed Ultra. Here's one I made earlier, which is this shoe, which was released properly in 2019. I'm wearing a shoe that is in development at the moment. And have been working hand in hand with the sort of performance team at Adidas Terrex for this shoe. I raced it in Madeira, and I've done a lot of training in it. It's just it's very, I can't say too much, but
we'll look forward to seeing the your social posts to find out what exactly it is. Yeah,
exactly. And if you look through my social posts, you will see some close-ups of it.
Very exciting.
I can't talk too much about it.
Well, we'll talk to you about that a little bit more in future. So, okay, let's talk tech. Your watch. How important is your running watch for you in both training and your racing?
It's super important. I've been lucky enough to be a Garmin athlete for a couple of years. I'd used Garmin before, and I was sort of always using the Forerunner series. And then when I then got into longer distances, I then started using the Fenix series. And then now, I've been using the Enduro now for a couple of weeks. I have not charged it, and it has still got 45 hours left on it.
That'll do you.
Just not having to. So I think, the tech is super important. I think sort of for me with the Enduro, sort of for me, the key features without sort of doing a sales pitch, the things that are genuinely useful for me. There's a lot of tech on it that I will never use. But some people will find really useful. For me, the battery life is a game changer. I don't have to worry about charging it. Charge it once a month, great, easy. And then the sort of Hill Climb Pro is just an absolute game changer, especially in the mountains where it's dark. You don't know how much longer you've got. cool, I've got another 4K and 1,000 meters of climbing. I say easy, not easy, but at least you know. I'd rather know than not know. And yeah, it just helps keep you safe. And it is that genuinely that companion. And yeah, it's then got all the standard Garmin things that you'd expect, sort of maps and routing and navigation, and monitoring your sleep, and all of that stuff is great. But for me, sort of similar with SunGod, is it fit for purpose? Yes. Is it comfortable? And do I know it's on my wrist? Yes, it's comfortable. No, I don't know it's on my wrist. Super lightweight. Yeah, it's just an incredible watch that I can't imagine. Like I almost feel like Garmin have sort of shot themselves in the foot slightly, because once you have this watch, you just don't need another one. Like what more could you want? And you compare it to sort of Apple when they were sort of releasing phones, sort of, this time we'll put a camera on this good camera and you can have it with this. And then next time it's okay, well, we've upgraded the camera. And now I'm like, I just can't see what could ever possibly need to be upgraded. Which I think is a huge compliment.
Well, you're not alone. The Enduro's got quite a few fans in the run testers, so we're big fans of those watches. Okay, and then just last bit on UTMB, how are you fueling for it during the race? Do you have a plan set up to sort of carry you through it?
Yeah, so we've been working and developing on a slightly higher carbohydrate plan than sort of what science used to say, sort of about 70 grams of carbs now. And we're sort of working more of sort of 90 to 100 grams of carbohydrate per hour. And yeah, my sort of predominant fueling is with Maurten. Maurten sort of for the carbohydrate, and then Red Bull for sort of the caffeine. And for me, it's incredibly important to get sort of the combination of carbohydrate and caffeine right. So aiming to take in and around 100 grams of carbs, and that will be a mixture of sort of sports drinks, gels, bars, and as well as some real food. I have a meal when I get to Courmayeur at sort of early hours of the morning, just something hot. What it is some slightly TBC, but it'll be something sort of particularly boring, but at least it'll be hot. And then just using a fairly aggressive caffeine strategy during the race, especially sort of probably starting at about midnight, to get me sort of through the stage that I will find the most miserable. And then it will sort of give me that sort of mental alertness, but then also just that sort of bit more sort of pop in your step. And there's a lot of sort of semi-technical descents that you need to be aware for, and your reaction times need to be a bit quicker. And for me, that's what the caffeine and that's what the Red Bull does. So yeah, pretty simple, no rocket science, just rocket fuel. And yeah, it's just it's like a big picnic.
Well, it sounds like you got it all sorted. Let's talk just finally a little bit about plans coming up. There was a point in the past couple of years where you were actually focusing on road marathons. You were looking at Tokyo, but then obviously injury happened. Is that something that you might go back to, or have you got a set guide and you're just going for these sort of UTMB races now?
I think never say never. Do I think I'll race on the road again? Yes. Do I think I will aim for Paris 2024? No. But does watching big championship marathons excite me? Yes. So yeah, I think just play it by ear. My big focus, my big goal is the ultra distance trail running. And I really want to hit my potential at that. And I don't think you can hit your potential at road marathoning and ultra trail running at the same time. If I was 10 years younger, maybe you could spend a couple of years doing one and then a couple of years doing the other. But now I'm sort of in the sort of a really important phase of my career where I really want to, stay settled and, see what I can achieve there. But yeah, I'm going to do lots of sort of feel that my recovery from UTMB this year I will do lots of cycling, So yeah, maybe a bit of bike racing.
Okay.
Might be next, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I like setting goals. And yeah, you've got to listen to your body after these big races, and but next year will be not a UTMB year, but a Western States year.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us for the podcast. There's so much information there to go through. And as I say, by the time people are listening to this, you'll have done it, so people will know how you've done it.
We can skip to the bit now. This is Tom's result.
But for now,
out halfway.
Good luck in the race, and thank you so much for joining us.
Brilliant. No, thank you very much, and yeah, keep up the great work at the Run Testers.
What have we got coming up over the next month in the world of Run Tester videos?
Best Garmin, the epic. I'm still
blimey.
editing it. It's taking a long time, and if there's any negative comments on it, I'm going to cry because it's so much work to edit this. It's trying to find cutaways from watches I haven't seen for 2 years and stuff like that. So it's nearly there. It's about 35 minutes. Watch every minute. It's all gold.
Excellent. And then we also have our favourite kit video. We did this quite a while ago, and this is where each of the Run Testers picks their favourite kit that they've ever tried. Now, some of those are probably things that they're still using. Some of them are probably things that don't exist anymore, like something like the original Nike Peg Turbo. So yeah, we'll be going through in that video talking about all of our favourite kit. So that will be something to watch in the next month at some point. Now, if you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at team@theruntesters.com, where you can drop us a question that we can answer in a future podcast, or you can get us at The Run Testers on Instagram and on YouTube at The Run Testers. Although, presumably, if you're listening to this, you've probably already seen that channel anyway, so that's not going to be news to you. But aside from that, Nick, Jill, thanks for being there and answering questions and talking about running shoes.
Yeah.
Yes, well,
I'm going to go drink some champagne.
Yeah, good. And we will speak to you. Well, we will be back in plenty more videos coming in the next few days. So thanks a lot, and we'll catch you later.
Bye.